In this video, I'll be sharing everything I do before a big trip, ranging from 1 week before up until the day of, formatted as a checklist that you can download for free if you stick around until the end. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that, so be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. Now, this video focuses on the week leading up to travel, but there are, of course, some longer term things to do in advance, things like checking your passport is valid, researching for your trip, and securing accommodation. So that's all covered in the checklist as well, but this video will be focusing on the less obvious must-dos. So let's get started with what to do on the week of. First off, be sure to organize the important documents and things that you need, including things like tickets and boarding passes for any attractions that you're planning on visiting and transport as well, plus bookings for things like hotels and other reservations like restaurant bookings. If you're old school, you can of course print them out for ease of mind, or you can also just organize them on your phone. The simplest way to do this would be to just create a special folder in your email inbox to collect everything. Alternatively, you can save everything into a folder on your phone, or use an app like TripIt or Wanderlog to keep everything together. The key here though is to make sure that you know where all your tickets and bookings are, and you are also double checking the dates that are on everything just to make sure that everything is correct. During this step, do pay some special attention to things like date changes due to time zones, because this can really trip a lot of people up. So do pay attention to anything that says +1 or -1, and look at the actual dates of the departure and arrival to make sure that you're not missing anything. I feel like everybody who's traveled a lot has a funny story about how this has messed them up in the past, so be sure to share yours in the comments. Mine wasn't too bad, but I did almost forget to pick my parents up from the airport once because I read their arrival date wrong. So definitely double check, especially if you're traveling across longer distances. At this point, if you haven't already, I would also confirm your transport from your home to your airport, whether you're driving yourself or if you're going to be getting a ride from someone or potentially pre-booking a taxi or anything like that. Make sure to confirm with your ride that you are all set. While you're on a roll, you should probably also confirm your transport from your destination airport to your accommodation once you're there as well. Next, what I would do is make copies and also take photos of important documents. In advance of your trip, you should definitely make sure you have copies of all of the following: your passport, your insurance information, your hotel, flight, and transport bookings, your visa, if that's applicable, your driver's license, any credit and bank cards, your trip itinerary, and important phone numbers, including theft hotlines for your credit or bank cards. Again, digital copies are a good idea, but I might also advise paper copies of the super important stuff just in case your phone gets stolen or broken somehow. Next is an optional one, and that's to call your credit card company to let them know that you'll be traveling to prevent them from freezing your card due to suspicious behavior, like suddenly trying to buy a bowl of noodles in Tokyo, for instance, when you live in Vancouver, Canada. Now, I have heard that this usually isn't necessary anymore, but that does really depend on your spending habits. If this is your first international trip in a long time, the bank might consider your activity suspicious if you're just randomly spending abroad. So if you want to be better safe than sorry, then definitely give them a call. Another thing to do is get some local currency if you need it. Again, this will depend on your destination. These days, a lot of countries don't actually use much cash, but some still do. And I do think it's usually good to have a tiny bit just in case, so quickly search up your destination to see if cash is still king there or if a little bit of cash might be needed, and make sure you have a little bit as a backup for once you arrive. The next thing you should do is check that you've bought all your essentials for the trip, because you don't want to leave it until the day before. So, some common purchases include things like an adapter and any new clothes and accessories, like for instance a swimsuit if you're going to a beachy destination. And if you've bought new shoes in advance of your trip, which a lot of people do make sure you take some time to break them in. Although honestly, this will typically take longer than a week, but make sure you're not just wearing your brand new shoes on your trip. Be sure to walk in them as much as you can so that they can be as comfortable as possible for your trip. Then next, what I would do is create a rough packing list for myself, just so I have all my essentials written down and I'm not stressing out the morning of, because that is always a recipe for disaster. If you need them, I do have a few free packing lists that you can download through the VIP zone on my website, so be sure to check that out if you need a good starting point. Next, based on this packing list, make sure all clothes that you're bringing are clean, laundered, and ready to go. Then make sure you have enough storage on your SD cards and phone to last you for the trip. It can honestly be such a bummer to arrive at your destination and realize you actually need to clear space for more photos once you're already there and you're just trying to live in the moment, so do try to do this in advance. Related to this is just making sure that you back up your photos and videos as well in advance of your trip. Because listen, things do happen when you travel. Things can get stolen, and while a phone and camera is replaceable, what's not replaceable are your memories. So in advance of your trip, do make sure you have all your memories backed up somewhere. I have an iPhone, so I just make sure that everything is synced to my iCloud, and anything on my camera SD cards, I make sure to back up onto my pCloud storage on my laptop, as well as on some portable hard drives, depending on what's on them. Next, this is a really big one that lots of people forget, so do make sure you check in with friends and family and colleagues and let them know that you're not going to be around throughout the duration of your trip. You probably don't want to be that friend that just tells nobody about their plans and then just randomly spawns in Italy on social media. Plus, letting people know in advance will save you some headaches down the road when people are trying to make plans with you or trying to get a hold of you when all you're trying to do is just enjoy your vacation. As a special safety note though, do not do this on social media, as this can be a safety issue if loads of strangers know that you're not home and nobody is guarding your house. Now next, what I like to make sure I do is make sure I have mobile data as soon as I land, because these days you do need data for everything, and my go-to for that is an eSIM because you can easily set it up in advance and not have to worry about it. So on that note, this week's video is brought to you by Airlo, my go-to eSIM company that has eSIM options for over 200 countries and regions around the world. And if you've never used eSIMs before, I promise you it's actually so simple and is a really great digital alternative to those old school physical SIM cards that you had to switch in and out anytime you traveled. And what I love about Airlo in particular is everything is managed through their app, which is really user-friendly. You can easily go on there before your trip, browse the different packages, buy it all within the app, and boom, you have internet as soon as you need it. Honestly, I've started using eSIMs only in the past year, and I can't believe I waited this long, so this is definitely a game changer, and it's really great because you can just add it to your pre-trip routine. So if you want to give Airlo a try, be sure to scan this QR code here for a link to download the app, and use this code here for a discount off your first purchase. And if you need a bit of extra help, you can also check out my Airlo guide for step-by-step instructions. So thanks again to Airlo for sponsoring this week's video. Now, in the week before, I also like to cook, eat, and freeze any perishable items that are in my house. Now, this is hardly a joke, but honestly, one of the few things I love more than traveling is finding ways to not waste food. Genuinely, food waste hurts my soul, so anything I can do to prevent it is key. So first, I'll have a peek in my fridge and see what isn't really freezer friendly, and then I'm going to prioritize making meals throughout the week that include those things. So common things would be fresh veggies like lettuce and cucumber. Those don't really freeze particularly well, so if I have a lot of that on hand, I'll just chop it up and make a giant tub of salad that I just peck away at throughout the week. Anything else like packaged meats, I'll try to cook and eat as well. If there isn't time to eat it all, then usually I'll prioritize a bulk cook of freezer-friendly meals like a chili, a soup, or a stew. And as a bonus, future you will really thank you when you get home and you can just defrost a nutritious home-cooked meal after all those vacation indulgences. And then finally, if there are any other random vegetables left over like onions, broccoli, etc., I'll tend to just chop them up and freeze them for future use. Even potatoes, when they're mashed, freeze super well, and this is a great way to use up milk and butter before a big trip. And any bread products usually defrost really well too, so just FYI, no need to toss food out just because you're going away. Alright, with all those week of tasks out of the way, things are getting real. Let's move on to things that you should be doing the day before your big trip. The first thing that feels stressful at the time but is so worth it when you get home is to just give your home a quick clean. It doesn't have to be a huge deep clean if you're short on time, but do make sure that your house looks tidy and the beds are made and you have fresh sheets and you have fresh towels to come home to, and there isn't just clutter and trash everywhere. Because this is going to make a huge difference for how much you can relax once you get home. And while you're already running around the house, do be sure at this point to water any plants that need it as well. Another key thing to do the day before your trip is to download entertainment for offline use. Now, depending on how long your journey is, if it's a long flight, this is an amazing opportunity to catch up on all your favorite TV shows, movies, podcasts, playlists, whatever you want to binge, now is the time. But to be able to actually enjoy them on your flight, train, bus, or road trip, you do probably need to download it for offline use, so be sure to do that in advance of your trip. Next up, take a bit of time to separate some of your cash and cards. What you don't want to do is make the rookie mistake of keeping all your cards and cash in one place, because if that wallet or bag gets stolen, you are completely screwed. So usually I'll make sure to have a backup payment card and some cash in each of my bags, just in case. And the reason I advise you do this the day before is if you're anything like me and you have a terrible memory, do it any earlier and you're probably gonna forget where everything is. Now, 24 hours before your flight, you should also check in. This saves a lot of stress and time at the airport, so I'd like to do it just as soon as I can. I know some people still like to check in when you're at the airport, but just check in advance. I promise it's going to make you so much less stressed. Next, another important must that so many people forget is to actually check the weather for your destination and adapt your packing list accordingly. Honestly, weather can be so random and you never know when you might encounter some unexpected weather conditions. So taking a look just before you leave is a really good idea, just to see if you might need to add a raincoat or anything like that. At this point, you should also remove any unnecessary items from your wallet that you won't be using when you're abroad, because there's definitely going to be things that you don't need. Things like your work keys, for instance, or your local transport pass, etc. So make sure that none of those items are still in your pockets or bags or wallets, just so you don't lose them when you're traveling. Then, once you're packed, be sure to weigh your luggage and make sure it's not overweight. If you travel often, buying a luggage scale is invaluable for peace of mind. So, if you don't have one, make sure to grab one because they're not expensive and they really can be so handy. While you're weighing your bags, do also take the time to ensure all your bags have luggage tags and up-to-date contact information on them. Bags do get lost, and sometimes people can even accidentally take the wrong suitcase at baggage claim. Ask me how I know that. So, having your information readily available on your suitcase and inside your suitcase is very important. I will say though, do avoid writing anything overly personal like your home address because anybody can see that information. So for your own personal safety, I would keep it to just a name and email, just some way that people can contact you if they need to. There's probably no reason that you actually need to write down your home address on there, so keep that in mind. I would also advise writing this contact information on a sheet of paper and putting it somewhere inside your suitcase as well, just in case that luggage tag falls off. Next, do be sure to charge all your electronics, especially things you intend to use on the flight. So thinking things like phones, iPads, laptops, and portable chargers. Now let's move on to a checklist of what to do on the day of your trip. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, but do double check that all your electronics are charged and that they did charge properly when you set them out the night before. I've had it so many times that I thought it was charging, but it wasn't because the thing wasn't plugged in, or maybe it needed an extra tap to confirm. Either way, you don't want to end up with something that has no battery because you didn't double check. So make sure you double check in the morning that everything did charge properly. And if you get easily hangry while traveling, do make sure you put some snacks in your bag as well. This is very handy for maintaining your sanity and your budget because airport food is ridiculously expensive. Then at this point, do throw away any food that will spoil while you're abroad. So if you didn't manage to cook or freeze it all, now is your time to put it in the garbage. The last thing you want to come home to is a messy fridge that's full of stinky and expired food once you're home. So be sure to put it in the trash. On that note, to suss out any potential food spoilage, one trick that a lot of people swear by is actually freezing a cup with a coin on the top. So that way, if you look at where the coin is and the water level has dipped, then you know that the power has probably gone out. So if you have space in your freezer, this might be a good idea. The next step is, of course, to take out that trash. Don't just leave it in your house, and also take out any recycling that might smell. The next step is to confirm that your flight is operating on schedule so you can leave as planned. I would really advise signing up for text alerts from your airline in advance so that you can hear about any delays or cancellations easily without having to check your email. Then before you leave, make sure all your appliances are off and unplug all electronics that need to be unplugged. At this point, you should be doing one last sweep of your house to make sure that things like your stove, oven, and air conditioning, etc. are all off. Then you're off on your merry way. All right, let me know in the comments if I missed any important steps, and be sure to like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one. I'll see you next time. Bye.